Hi, this is Carrie Cassidy from Project Camelot, and I am on the air back from South Africa, still incredibly jet-lagged, but I am being joined by two very wonderful friends. We've got Dr. Waterman and we've got Rebecca Jernigan joining me to help me prop me up during this show. So are you guys both there?
Absolutely.
Yep, we're here.
Wonderful. So lovely to have both of you on the air, and we're just going to continue from yesterday, it looks like. It seems like I hope that we don't get, overexposed here. Okay, so at any rate, moving right along.
I was laughing, actually.
Okay. Well, I am back from South Africa, and I was visiting, for those that don't know, Michael Tellinger, and he is the author of Slave Species of God, and that's God with a small g, and it's all about the origins of man and women, and
thank you.
Basically, the notion that we are genetically engineered by the Anunnaki. Picking up where Sitchin left off, for those of you who are familiar with Sitchin, in his research. And it's beginning to look like there's ample evidence that what he calls Adam's calendar was the site of the genetic engineering of man, was what was called in the Sumerian tablets, what they called the Deep Abzu, which was definitely located in Africa. And the question has always been where in Africa, I guess. And these ruins were discovered by a pilot who had been flying over just miles and miles of these standing stones and circular stones that were amazing and didn't make any sense in terms of having come from what is called the Bantu people that originally are the people that inhabited that part of Africa, at least in the early times, to our knowledge. But they are a more nomadic people, and they don't build structures like this. And so there's no clear indication as to how all of these structures were built. They're amazing stones, and I encourage everyone to go to adamscalendar.com. That's one of the websites that Michael has. I believe Makomati is another website. I'm not sure if that's .com or .org. And check out the ruins. The photographs are quite excellent on his website, and you can get a real idea. Adam's calendar is a clock, and from there you can see actually out over it's up on a cliff, and it's overlooking a very, very large valley that is thought perhaps to have been created by a crater. And the standing stones are similar to Stonehenge in many ways, and they have sound amplification and conveying capabilities. And he's actually, Michael is on the track of basically discovering sound technology and how they used the stones to use sound to move the stones into place. And there's no way that man could have moved these stones. Some of them are just gigantic, and just like the pyramids, you're left wondering, how did this happen? And so this is all part of Michael's investigations, and it was fascinating to go there and actually be shooting not just interviews like in a room, which is what I usually do, but to actually go to sites and be filming as we go. And I was taken up in I think they called it a Huey helicopter. It was from, I think the Vietnam days or something. And is quite an interesting machine. But at any rate, I was flown over the ruins along with a filmmaking crew that happened to be there simultaneously from South African TV. That was a very professional crew. Jan Horn is the person who was leading that crew, and they were shooting a documentary with Michael simultaneously to mine. So that was an interesting dynamic, and obviously it's very good for Michael that he's having a major television station interested suddenly in these ruins. And it's fascinating because the South African government has no knowledge whatsoever, and they don't seem very interested either. So you sit there in puzzlement as to how these ruins could sit there, be totally ignored through history until now. I mean, it's just kind of boggles the mind. And Johann Heiner is the one who discovered, like I said, he's the pilot who discovered the ruins, and he has charted the alignments with the stars, similar to what you have in Stonehenge and the Pyramid of Giza. They're all on the same longitudinal line, which is 31 degrees, as the pyramids of Giza. I believe it's the longitudinal line. But at any rate, all this information is available on Michael's site and in his books. They've written a book also called Temples of the Gods, and I did an audio interview before I left with Michael, so that's on my website as well, ProjectCamelot.org, for those of you who want to start to get familiar with all of that. So that's the quick version of my trip, and be happy to answer any questions Rebecca, you or Waterman might have, and or we can go off in some other directions as well.
Well, I have a couple of comments. I spoke with Michael Tellinger. I've done an interview for my show with him, Carrie, and we were talking about these ruins. And of course, in his books, I have to say, the photography is absolutely mind-blowing in a book, because usually it loses, a lot of its, depth, its vibrancy. But you can actually sense when you're looking in his books on these pictures of really what's going on. So in his books, I highly recommend Michael Tellinger's work, and the whole premise behind everything being interconnected. I mean, that's what we talk about, right? We're all interconnected. So all these ancient sites that we have throughout the world, yet some of them yet to be discovered, some of them that have been discovered but not talked about, much like what's going on with Michael. This is just spectacular knowledge that we're relearning, and I find it extraordinarily fascinating. And just as a side note here, many years ago, I was given some information about all these rediscoveries of some of these ancient sites. I had no idea what it was I was being shown or told or any of it at that point. And I am absolutely in awe of the information that comes out that has been over the past few years into a place where you can actually get this information, and it confirms all of these things, and it starts making sense. And you're like, okay, good. It makes sense. And there are many people like me out there that have had information, and they go, okay, this doesn't make sense. How come this doesn't happen? How come that? And then when it starts happening, you kind of go, all right, this is awesome. And so there are many people out there who've had similar experiences or have been told, and then to get the confirmation, if you will, the proof, if you will, the visual and the audio of it all, and to put it together, it makes your own life in more of a sensical direction for an individual. So I can't wait. I have some questions, but I know Dr. Waterman has some things that he wants to say, and I don't want to monopolize the conversation here today.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. And I have to say that when I first saw the photographs of the stones, this is before I interviewed Michael. I don't even know how I found out his name. It might have been on Coast to Coast or something. And I took a look at the stones, and I just got such an incredible vibe off the photographs that I just said to myself, I have to go there. I just have to go there. And it was really interesting. Michael's had some channeling done in regard to that site. And one of the channelers just recently, in fact, that Camelot has put their session on my YouTube account, in which Terry Ippoliti was doing a channeling, said to Michael that the people that are supposed to be going there will be attracted to it, and they will come. And that's just really interesting because I just felt this magnetism towards that site that I really wanted to go there. And I also haven't even talked about the power of the stones, not only there at Adam's Calendar, but